welcome. All right, so I think I'm going to stand over here so I can see it. Can you see me okay? Everyone?
You want the lights off or partially off?
Let's see how it is. Is it nicer with the lights on?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time for yourself today, because I know how difficult it is to make time to get up on a Monday morning. I'm guessing that's why your speaker series is on a Monday morning, because it starts you off fresh. And let's see. Does this work? Come on.
Oh, it's not working.
I'm having some technical
This
issues
morning.
today. All right, maybe I'll move this and I'll just use the cursor. Okay. So what I wanted to say before we get started is please feel free to take screenshots. I'm totally fine with that. I would love for you to tag me. I'm at Daily Outfit on Twitter and Allison_Daily Outfit on Instagram. Feel free to share the tips and tricks. I really just want to be here to help you and help your fellow job seekers, career transition makers. Of course, I'd love for you to turn your mobile phones to silent. And if you have any questions, write them down, because there will be sections for Q&A at the end. Okay, this really is working. Oh wait, maybe now it's going to work. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is me. I am American, as you can tell from my voice. Now, I did spend 10 years in New York, so if I start talking way too fast, just raise your hand and tell me to slow down. I also have had some caffeine this morning, so you know how it goes. Now, I don't know how many of you know this flag.
Belgium.
Correct. So I am a Brussels sprout. My father was in the Foreign Service, so I grew up overseas. This is actually my house that I spent my childhood in London. So very lucky to be what they call a third culture kid. Any third culture kids here? No? Okay.
What does that mean, the third?
It means that you are of a culture, but you grew up in a different culture.
Oh, okay.
So you sort of have this outsider perspective. They tend to be very friendly and open and adventurous. So it's yeah. Anyway, it's a thing. So this is me in the Netherlands, where I most recently was living for 5.5 years. We moved back here a year ago to Silver Spring, so very happy to be here. And while I was in the Netherlands, I wrote my book, which was a lot of fun. And I now have an agent and a proposal out there, so if any of you can help me get published, I'd really appreciate it. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. Here's my little family, my daughter and my son and my husband. I was lucky enough to be able to take them to London to share my growing up experience with them. And then here we are, here are the two kids on the first day of school last year in our new house. And then this you have, I've put them around along with a lovely little sachet to put in what the British call your smalls drawer to keep everything smelling fresh and, of course, thinking of me. So this is my manifesto for my business, which I started about 10 years ago. So today we're going to talk about the power of personal style to help make your job hunt a success. And we're going to start with sort of big picture. So I've got a picture of the forest, you see. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about primers. We're going to talk about my formula. And then we can have some questions. And then we're going to talk about what you're really here to find out is the nitty-gritty, what you need. We're going to do a personal exercise to kind of figure out what you have. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks around that. Then I have a bonus for you, because it is, you know, the gift-giving season. Happy Hanukkah for those of you who celebrate. And we're going to try and clear this fog away and zero in so that you feel really good when you walk out the door. So that's our agenda for today. So I'd like you to raise your hand if you are smart, and I know all the hands in the room are going to go up. And if you're ambitious, yes, come on now. If you're unbelievably competent, because I know you are. I know you are. All right, okay. And then just a little confused about styles. Okay, I'm not going to raise my hand. Okay, because that would be weird, right? So my purpose today is to take you from confused to confident, so that when you walk out of here, you feel like you have some tips and tricks, you know some things, because being confused doesn't really feel good, right? It's just kind of icky in your body, and what you want is to stand tall and feel good and walk into those information interviews and that first interview and that second interview and onto the job, feeling really good about how you're presenting yourself so that you can take the next step and the next step and the next step. So that's how we define success. So let's get you there. All right, first thing is mindset. And I'm guessing that you've probably read a little bit about this and talked a little bit about this. So you might be familiar with this woman, Carol Dweck. Anyone know about growth mindset? Okay, really good book to read if you haven't read it as of yet. So she says 40% of your happiness, and we can substitute probably success here too, is a product of how you see yourself. How you see yourself and the corresponding choices that you make. I find this really fascinating because if you take sort of the other 60% as you assume perhaps it's all of the things you were given, your background, all of the things that you can't change, your skin color, your body, your face, your education, your upbringing, all of these things that you have no control over. And you sort of put those aside and you say, okay, but 40%, like using the words this morning, right? Like Ron said, I'm not going to panic, right? Is what you can control. So let's think about this in terms of how you literally see yourself, right? Because we wake up in the morning, we look in the mirror, and what do? Reflections in this mirror may be distorted by socially constructed ideas of quote-unquote beauty. And I don't know if you know this, but the dictionary definition of beauty actually has nothing to do with physical attributes and has everything to do with the pleasure you bring or a thing brings to others. So when you wake up in the morning, what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying, man, I am an attractive, smart, funny, kind person? I mean, how many of you are doing that when you look in the mirror in the morning? It's like, who was that character, Mr. Oh gosh, from SNL?
Yeah. I'm good, I'm smart, I'm
Right.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of us are doing the other, right? The negative self-talk. Oh, my hair. Oh, I'm not feeling good about my body. Look at me, I'm so frumpy. So we're sort of reinforcing, this negative self-talk. And when you start your day that way, think about that 40% of your happiness and the corresponding choices you make, right? So how you're seeing yourself drives what you're actually doing. So what I want to do is help you change the conversation. So when you're looking at yourself, you're not saying, I don't know if this belt is really right with this outfit. Instead, you're saying, wow, I'm looking really good. Or I have, she has really lovely shoulders. Or what beautiful lips. Or that's a really cute haircut. It's not hard to start thinking about and giving yourself that positive feedback. So why is this important? Okay, so it's not just that it's nice to say nice things to yourself, right? It might seem silly, but it actually has been proven, and we're going to talk about this concept of primers and why it actually can change your results and how they've discovered that it can. So the first study that I got really interested in, you might have seen this in the New York Times a couple years ago, is called the white coat study. And it proved that clothes actually affect your psychological state. Now, we might know this intuitively, but what you might not know is that it can change your results, and it can change the results of the person you're interacting with. So they did this with doctors. So they had doctors put on a white coat and go into the patient, and as they put on their white coat, the white coat of course being a symbol of a doctor, they would go into the patient, and the doctor, him or herself, would feel a difference, and actually they could measure that the whatever procedure they did was performed better. And the patient could feel a difference because they looked up, they saw this white coat, immediately relaxed, trusted the situation, and actually received better care. That's kind of amazing, right? Like, it's just a white coat. It didn't work when they tried it with artists. They put the white coat on the artist to see if they could like make a better painting. I mean, how do you quantify that? I don't know. But, you know, it didn't work. And it's not like you can just put on a beret and a smock, you know, and become a painter. But the white coat did work. So my question was then, in my field, how can I create a bespoke white coat? So the other study that really caught my interest was this air pilot study. And this is gonna blow your minds. It blows my mind every time I talk about it. So how many of you seen Catch Me If You Can? All right, so this is Leonardo DiCaprio. He's got this pilot's uniform on. Now, I'm not trying to say that you can get in and fly the plane, right? But when people put on a pilot's uniform, they tested their eyesight before in their regular clothes. They tested their eyesight in the air pilot's uniform. Their eyesight improved. Right? That's crazy. But it works. So when you think about the power of the mind and how much we don't know about how the mind works, if you can literally improve the function of your eyeballs, why would you not try and figure out how to present yourself in a way that makes you feel more effective? So this woman who did the study, Ellen Langer, she drilled down, and she finally figured out that, you know, the placebo effect, how like the 30% of a medication's effectiveness is just based on the fact that you're taking medication. So she sort of called it the placebo effect, and that it actually can come in the form of a single word. So I sort of put all of this together, and I thought, well, okay, so how can I create a white coat for my clients? How can I figure out what's going to make them more effective? How can we capture this single word, placebo? I mean, even if it's just a placebo, how can we do that every single day to improve our results? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what we all want, right? We all want to be more effective. So I came up with a formula, as you do. So I got into personal style by way of just helping people out in their wardrobes, taking them shopping. When I left corporate, as I was explaining to Laurel, I sort of put an email out to my friends and family, and I was like, all right, if you've ever wanted to tell me what to do, now's the time. And this is what they said. And so I was like, all right, I can do that. So I started taking people shopping, and I started going into their homes and helping them go through their wardrobes. And what I found is that the women that I worked with really had a very clear sense of what they did not want. But they didn't have a vision for what they did want. So if we're trying to figure out what your white coat is, how do we get there? So I started looking around to see if there was some sort of process to create personal style, and I couldn't find anything. There's a lot of like you shoulds, but not a lot of how do we get the inside out. And I knew you could do it. So I started with this concept where all image consultants start of what flatters you. Okay, so there are 5 elements. I teach this. It's very clear. Your coloring, your face shape, your hair texture, your body shape. all of these things sort of put together decide what you can wear and how you can put your best foot forward, right, in terms of how people see you. But to me, that wasn't enough, and that's where most stylists and most image consultants they start and they end with what looks good on you. But I was really much more interested in how do we bring out what makes you already amazing onto the outside so that people can see you in that first impression, that 3 to 5 seconds where they decide, they assign adjectives to you. How can we do this? So I thought about, because I came from advertising, color story. Colors have meanings, and we use them all the time in advertising campaigns. Fashion also uses them when they put together their collections. They use them in the spreads that you'll see in magazines. So I thought, well, why not use the colors to prime us? Because if you know what the color means and you're intentionally putting it on, then you can kind of think, all right, what are my 3 to 5 core values? How do I want to show up today? Why is red a power of color? Well, it means energy, and it means confidence, and it means this and that. But maybe there are other things that I want to convey. And then I thought about, well, I can tell, and I look at someone and I read their outfit, and it's sort of like tarot cards, if you will, for how you look. You're giving messages, whether you own it or not. You're sending a message with the way that you look. And so how can we harness that? And how can we make it something where you convey a message that you want to send? So that's my what matters part of the formula. And then, of course, the last part is your dream. As you said, you have to dress for the job that you want, right? So you have to show up and think about what is it that you want and how are you stepping into that so that you're literally embodying it and people see it in you. So for Shannon, for example, when she came to me, she was a holistic health coach, and she wanted to get into speaking and teaching about all of the things that she was really expert on, besides teaching yoga classes. So she wanted to figure out a speaker look for herself that had nothing to do with her yoga clothes, right? So we looked at using her existing wardrobe. What did she have that embodied her values? So this dress it fits her body nicely, so it shows that she's paying attention to her health. It's in a color that means growth and expansion, green. It's in a fabric that's natural because she's down to earth and she's all about organic, nutrients and feeding your body. And then she's wearing this necklace that was created in a project in South Africa by the moms who were sending their kids to school. It was giving them jobs. It was this whole project that her friend created, nonprofit. So it gave her something to talk about, as well as clearly being sort of down to earth and, really in line with this idea of being a holistic health coach. Wearing her hair down, very natural, very fresh. And so it just fit. And she felt confident, she felt calm, and, happy to go up and speak about her topics. That her look was in line with her topic. So when we bring it all together, this is my formula: what flatters plus what matters plus your dream. Trying to bring all of those pieces together, create those primers, get that mindset going so that when you walk out the door, what people see is in line with what you want to deliver. So it's a little bit of a different twist on, dress for success. It's not fitting the mold, it's what do you want to deliver? So how can you tweak what's expected so that you're feeding people a little bit more information? Does that make sense? Okay, so let me check in on time here, see how we're doing. We good? Okay, all right. So I've got time for some questions before we get into the trees. Yes?
The last thing you said that was what really gets me is the jobs I'm going for, at least right now, they really have nothing to do with how I dress.
Well, that's
So,
a different
you know,
question.
Suits and professional, and I don't mind putting on a suit, it's just, I'm a much more casual person, and it's hard for me to be all stiff and be myself.
Okay, so there are ways that we can address that, meeting the expectations, but also meeting what you need for comfort and feeling good. And it really comes down to fabrication. So, for example, I'm standing here in a skirt suit, but the fabric that I'm wearing is stretchy, so it moves with me. I don't feel any more or less constricted than I would if I were wearing pajamas. I mean, it's very comfortable, it moves with me. Now, obviously, you know, I'm of a more creative, you know, but I mean, you could easily wear something, and most fabrications now have a little bit of stretch in them. So you can find things, whether it be dresses or, you know, we can get into that in terms of tactics, but it's totally doable for the two to meet. I promise. Yes, Raj.
What if you don't know what style of clothing is appropriate for the job you're looking for?
Well, that's an excellent question, and we're going to talk about that when we get into the trees. But basically, when you go, I'll talk about first interview, but when you go in, you're going to kind of look around and observe, and you're going to see what people are wearing in the office once you get in the door. And then you get a chance to kind of gut check and see if that's the way you want to live your day-to-day, too. Because that's a reasonable question, right? Anyone else? Yes?
Yeah, I'm just curious about your comments about, you know, people liking themselves, that whole area, which is very important. That's
Definitely.
the first thing. Now, in today's world, well, I guess my question is, what are you seeing with the younger people, the millennials? See, you know, right now there are books coming out about how we're isolating ourselves, there's no sense of community, people are not relating to one another. 32% of millennials don't believe in face-to-face communication.
No.
But if you ask them, you know, what they think of themselves, they're very confident.
Yes.
So what is your interpretation of what's going on, and is that a problem when you're working with younger people to have them understand that that's the first thing they have to look at, or, you know?
That's a really interesting question. And I guess just off the top of my head, I would say that the young people that, and I have two young kids, so I'm quite familiar with, and I have a niece who's a millennial. They're extremely aware of how you look. I mean, if you look at the numbers for how much time young kids are spending on Instagram, for example, they're extremely aware. So they may not be having face-to-face communication, but they know that their little avatar, and it's not a comic anymore, right? It's their real picture is showing up every time. So I would say that they're almost more aware and less willing to depend on the sort of idea that my credentials should matter, or I shouldn't have to care about the way I look because, you know, I have all this expertise and skills and so forth. They know that you're looking at them, you're judging them, and it's a real problem actually for them, because they can very easily, I mean, when you think about how most adolescents and young people are caught up in the way they look anyway,
You're right, yeah.
it can be a real problem. But the interesting thing I found out recently is that, because we think of sort of anorexia and bulimia as a young girl's problem, but it's not. It's actually, the numbers are that it's the worst demographic is women who are middle-aged, like, so my people. And part of it is, you know, you're working, you've got kids, you've got aging parents, you've got the second shift, there's all of this stuff. And P.S., if you've had kids, you're post-kids, and so your body, and, you know, it's a tough time. And so, so I'm really concerned about that particular population and lifting them up.
You know, because you know, kind of concerned. I mean, with all the bullying that goes on,
Yes.
you know, on social media, you know, young people's egos are fragile, you know? I mean, the
Absolutely.
suicide rate is high. So
Yes.
it's getting a lot past that to build the confidence that individuals should have about who they are and what they can achieve. So, you know, I mean, all of what you're doing is part of that, obviously, to get people to think highly about themselves.
Right, right.
With it,
And so
because
my,
there's so many barriers
Right.
out there that cause people to
right.
have problems.
So my focus is to change the conversation about style and fashion from how are people judging you based on the way you look to how are you thinking about yourself and what are you putting out there and how much can you control this message, and therefore, you know, really focus on the positive things that you have to contribute. And that, I think, is honestly, most young kids can't, that's prefrontal cortex stuff. They just don't even have the capability, you know? But it's, of course, stuff that I talk to certainly my kids about all the time, you know? Think about, you know, what you have to offer.
Right.
Is that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, let's get into the trees. All right, so let's talk about what you need to make your job hunt a success. So we're looking at 4 different outfits. Your first, the information interview, right? Then you've got your first interview. Hopefully you get in the door, you get the chance to interview for that job. Then, or I shouldn't say hopefully, I should say you will, right? And then you're so successful in that first interview that they call you back and ask you to come again. You're not going to look the same for the first and second interview. There's a differential in how you want to show up. And then, of course, over all of these, especially now that it's winter, we have our first impression. Very important, okay? So that you're ready to say yes to the opportunities that you want. I want to make sure that the work we do today gets you ready for all of these occasions. Okay? So, the information interview, that's when you're going on LinkedIn, you're looking at your friends and your colleagues and who they know, right? So that you can start setting up coffees and meeting people after work or whatever. And the way you want to show up is, it's sort of this weird thing where it's like, you're not going all suited up. It's kind of like, oh, I just happened to be here and happened to have a coffee, you know? But of course you didn't happen to just be here. That's probably the only thing you're doing that day, or maybe you're doing 2, right? So you want to sort of show that attention to detail. You actually want to be comfortable because you don't want them to feel uncomfortable. Unless you're going from work and you're dressed for work, and that's a totally different thing. But if you're job hunting, you don't want them to feel like you got all dressed up for this interview and they don't actually have a job to give you. You want them to feel like, oh, you know, we're just having a conversation today. So you're comfortable, you're casual, whatever that looks like for you. So for example, for Beverly, she was asking me earlier, you know, what do I wear to our first interview? Beverly, you may feel very comfortable in what you're wearing, which is a jacket and trousers. And if that's how you feel comfortable, that's how you show up for your information interview. You know, it may be, for example, for Kate, you say you like to be more casual. You know, maybe it is a nice pair of jeans and a jacket, or a really nice sweater, or something, but it has to be composed. There has to be attention to detail. And I'm going to talk about how you do that in a minute. So the overall impression that you want to give is that you're trustworthy. You can pay attention to those details. You can show up not only on time, but early. You're prepared. So of course, you know, you've got all of those boxes checked as well. And then you follow up with a note. So you're covering all of your bases to kind of give them the impression that they can trust you so that they can pass along your name to their colleague. And then so it goes, right?
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
I'm just a little fuzzy because I don't know if I've ever been on an information interview before. Usually if it's not a phone interview, they call me in and I have to be suited up.
Right.
So in my profession, like you say, public policy or whatever, at what point would I encounter an information interview?
So this is looking for a specific job.
Okay.
This is where you're going out, you're reaching out to your network and you're saying, hey, this is Beverly, how are you doing? And then they say, hey Beverly, haven't heard from you in a while, what's going on? And you're like, well actually I'm in the middle of a career transition and I'd love to meet you for coffee. If you work together, you can ask about people you know and kind of just create that bond and then be top of mind so that then they can meet you for coffee, you take them for coffee, and then they say, oh, you know what, Beverly, there's actually someone in my office who's looking for a job, or my friend just mentioned the other day that, the person that she's working with is terrible, maybe that would be a good fit for you. So you're sort of engendering this community of people who are helping you look for your job.
So I can connect with people on the social media. See, I don't even have a social media account.
Well, you're going to have to set up your LinkedIn, and I'm guessing that that's another class.
Yeah, you do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you get the interview, right?
Okay.
So how are you going to show up for the interview? So for this one, this is going to be like your most conservative, your most traditional look. It doesn't necessarily have to be traditional though. So if you think about what field you're going into, for example, for me, I'm a creative. So this is about as suited up as I get. This is about as pared down. I've still got my crazy cape and, I'm wearing my belt and, there's color. And so I've got some things going on, my eyeglasses, that's still indicating the creativity that I bring to my work every day. So what you're trying to do is you're going with a neutral color, gray, black, navy. Why? These colors, Beverly and I were talking about this earlier, these colors have meaning. So you want to think about what is the message you want to send. So black is serious, it's business, it's also kind of intense, it's a little New York. There's definitely like some feelings people have about black. If that's something that's in line with the way that you are, or maybe you have a softer approach and you kind of need a little bit of edge, you want to put that on. On the other hand, gray is a thoughtful color, it's nuanced. I mean, you're talking about, seeing the gray areas, right? So gray is something that's a really nice color to wear for an interview because it sort of shows your intellectual ability and your ability to kind of sit back and listen and take it all in. And then you've got navy, and there's no mistake that almost all uniforms are navy because they're the color of trust. So you may not trust the people in uniform, that's a whole other conversation, but that is what the color means. And so you've got trust, you've got calm also. It's a sedate color, so it's sort of, you think about bankers in their navy jackets or their gray suits, right? So you want to kind of go with these neutral colors. You want to be tailored. The look right now is, it's not totally sleek. It's, that's like you think about Obama and his very sleek tailored suits. It's not totally sleek like that, but it's not baggy either. So you want to be showing your body a little bit so that it's tailored to your body, just so that it's neat. It's really the bottom line. You want to be neat and respectful. So what you're trying to do is just set expectations. You're trying to check those boxes so they can say, yes, you showed up on time. Of course, you're clean, right? Head to toe, your hair is clean, done, put together. You're neat, your shoes are shod, your nails are clean and cut and polished, all of these things, just to make sure that you're just checking all of those boxes. What they want to do when they see you on the first interview is say yes. They want to say yes, you want them to say yes, so you give them no reason to say no. Does that make sense? Yes?
I have a quick question also. Now, when women come dressed like the lady in the picture, when you wear hose, does that give indication to some industries that, oh, that's old school?
No, I think it's important to wear hose on a first interview. I mean, I know that sort of the trend is more bare-legged, but she's actually wearing hose.
Okay.
It's just nude for her.
Just know.
Yeah. So, for example, this particular woman, I worked with her, and her purpose was to command respect, but also for people to feel comfortable with her and know that they could count on her. So we went with tan, which is, the color meaning is approachable and friendly. And as I was saying to you earlier, I would do this for spring, summer, not for right now. The sleeves are literally cut off, so they're 3/4 sleeves, so it looks like she's rolled up and ready to get to work, but balanced with this double-breasted, more traditional look. The placket is open, she's open, her hair is not too stiff, right? So it moves with her. And then there's a little bit of personality here in the print and a little bit of personality here in the shoe. I wouldn't do the shoe on the first interview. I'd do that on the second interview. So I'd do a nude shoe on the first interview.
Nude shoe on the first interview.
Or whatever matches the suit.
Do you recommend hair being pulled back in a?
Well, it's funny, I was thinking about that this morning because I was kind of coming to show you sort of my most sedate look. and I thought about putting my hair up because it is definitely more sort of composed and sophisticated than wearing your hair down. I think you really, I think your hair is beautiful. So I don't think you need to worry about it because it's really done. My hair's a little wilder, but I did have that conversation in my head, and I decided to go with this because I'm more creative, and so this is the way I would show up. I'm not going for banking jobs. So if I were, I'd put my hair back, for sure. Yeah.
No, and I just wanted to share a quick story where I learned this lesson early in my professional career. Was working for a company where we were going for a big multi-million-dollar project, and at the last minute, my counterpart on that team, he and I got switched out. Where basically I was talking like I did his job and didn't, and everybody on our team and the people we were showing around were in blue, gray, black suits, white shirts, and this guy, he was on the side, he was in a tan suit, leopard print tie, eel-skin boots, because he was thinking about happy hour after, and
Wow. Yeah. So he stood out, but maybe not in the best way.
Exactly, and the higher up saw the difference in our dress, and so
Yes.
they're like, well, no, let's take him out and.
So he actually lost his speaking opportunity.
Correct, and I spoke like I was the person
That's
who
an
did his
excellent
job.
example. Do you mind if I steal that?
No.
It does, it's a really good example. All right, so second interview, I think then, maybe not the eel-skin boots, but I think second interview you can show up with a little bit more personality. Because in this situation, you are interviewing them as well. So you've checked all their boxes, you've cleared the hurdle, if you will, and now you're going in to see, how do I feel in my body in this environment? Do I like these people? Because think about how much time you spend at work. You want to make sure you feel good there. So you're also showing up with a little bit more personality to kind of indicate to them who you are now that you've checked all these boxes. So it's not like Jekyll and Hyde, right? It's just an evolution of your relationship because you're building a relationship with every single contact. So here I have Robin, and so she would have gone into her first interview in a gray suit. Whether it's a skirt suit or a pantsuit, doesn't matter. It was conservative, simple jewelry. Now here she is for her second interview. She does have hose on. Maybe you can't tell, but she does. It's nude for her. But she's still looking composed. She's still looking great. She has a jacket for this look, so she's not going in bare-armed. But the dress is a little bit more flattering for her body. It's got a pattern. It shows movement. It frames her face. So there's just something a little bit more real about it than your suit. Yeah?
Okay, question. Now, depending on the second interviews, I've encountered, I've met like executives from the first one, so I'm meeting another set of executives the second one. So would that be appropriate for me to have that for the second interview?
I think with the look on your face, no. No, I mean, and that's where you kind of have to make a judgment
Make a
call.
judgment call?
Yeah, like if you're going into the meet the board, you're still going to be suited up.
Yeah.
But maybe you're suited up with something with a little bit more pattern, or you're wearing a piece of jewelry that's more of a conversation starter, or, you know, I mean, George Bush wore his cowboy boots to the White House, so it clearly didn't stop him, right? I mean, it depends on how much of a risk you want to take, too. You
And
know?
I've worn off black hose. Please tell me, is that wrong? Because
No.
Is it not? It's not wrong to wear off
No.
black.
No. Why would it be?
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm here.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I think the bottom line is you have to feel really good.
Okay.
And if you have a question about it, go more formal. Because you can always be more dressed up than everybody. The worst thing is to be dressed down from everyone, right?
Because, you know, when I've gone to interviews, I've seen millennials and they don't dress like mature, the mature crowd.
Right.
They dress, and it makes me feel like they're overly doing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they end up getting
Job.
the job. So I leave away sometimes feeling like, I think I overly did it. You know?
Well, and that's where I'm saying you have to read the environment. So if you're going into a first interview and you're suited up and everyone there is jeans and t-shirts and, you know, Crocs, God forbid, you know, then you're not going to go into the second interview in a suit. You're going to go in something that's more comfortable, but you still need to look professional.
No, I was just going to also interject, and then that's also where doing your research online in terms of seeing pictures of the individuals you're interviewing on their LinkedIn and online, and the company culture, see how
Absolutely.
conservative or
Right.
not it is.
I have a story about this. A friend of mine is a lawyer at DOJ, and when she was first starting out, she was in corporate. She was working with a lot of tech companies, and you know, tech companies are sort of known for being really dressed down. So she was talking to her boss, and she was saying, you know, I just feel so stupid going in there in my suit, and they're like all in their t-shirts, and he was like, no, you are their lawyer. They want their lawyer to look like a lawyer. It doesn't matter that they're tech guys, so they're in their bro uniform. You need to be in your suit. And you know, I obviously have no idea what went on in that particular situation, but I would say, personally, and the advice that I give is always be a little better dressed, because at least you know that that's not where, you know, maybe you need to work on the stories that you're telling, maybe it's just the way the cookie crumbled. Maybe the kid who walked in who was, you know, not well dressed was actually like the CEO's son. I mean, who knows? You have no idea, right? Yes.
I'm trying to translate this to men.
Yes.
So that's what I've been trying to do, and I can see some overlap there.
Yeah.
So if you give tips with the men, it'd be good.
Yes. So we're going to talk about that, but let me get through this
sure.
first impression too, because all of this is true for men as well. It's just
Yeah.
that, you know, it's funny because I was thinking about this as I put the presentation together for you, and I thought this might actually be the first time many of you men have been to a presentation where most of the pictures are of women. Because of course for women, that's true our whole lives, right? With the literature we read, the pictures we see, it's all men.
Yeah.
So it's all of this is true for women and for men. It's just that for men, the uniform is a little bit clearer. You know, for women, it's a little bit more confusing. But I know you men have your confusion too.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about specifics in a minute, okay? So the first impression, of course, is your coat and the bag that you're carrying. Because when you come in that building, You know, oftentimes they'll seat someone downstairs to greet you. They have a first impression of you. They're going to report on it. You want to make sure your coat is also, well, you know, it's neat and you're put together when you walk in the door of the building as well. That your bag is in good shape, that it's polished, you know, whatever you're carrying your resume in, or your clips, or whatever it is that you're bringing into your interview. And the shoes, of course, always have to be polished because people really look at that. You can wear a scarf or not, you know, but everything that you're wearing needs to be in good condition, needs to be neat, and somewhat, you know, like of this decade. I mean, it doesn't have to be like on point fashion trend, right? But you need to not be wearing, although for men sometimes you have a little bit more leeway because your looks tend to be a little bit more classic. Okay, so let's get into this personal exercise. If you have a piece of paper and a pen, you can get it out. I'm going to ask you to write some things down. All right, raise your hand when you have your paper and pen out. Okay, everyone's good? Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what you have. So you're creating a wardrobe list for yourself. So this first outfit, this information interview outfit. For men, it's going to be a press shirt. For women, a blouse and nice jeans, so dark. Or if you're not comfortable in jeans, wear chinos or trousers, khakis. You can also wear a nice sweater, so like a V-neck or crew neck sweater in good condition. Yes, you can wear a skirt. Yes, of course you can wear a jacket if you feel comfortable. So the point is for you to feel comfortable, put together, composed, neat.
And again, this is not employers, these are just your network
Correct.
connections.
So this is when you're meeting for coffee with
Okay.
people you used to work with, so you become top of mind, so they think of you when the next opportunity comes up. Or they can give you someone to talk to, then you take them to coffee, and so on and so forth. So what I want you to do is not write down what I have here, but write down what you have in your wardrobe right now that fits the bill. And I'm going to go get a glass of water, and then we'll come back and we can share what you've got. All right, so raise your hand when you've got your information interview outfit written down.
I have a question.
Yes,
I've actually spoken to a few people,
yeah.
and I didn't follow this, maybe 20% of this.
Okay.
Does that mean I'm not on the top of the mind of the people who I've spoken to?
I wouldn't worry about what you've done in the past. Let's focus on going forward. I mean,
What can you do now?
no. The idea here is to check all the boxes and do everything you can so that you're in control of putting your best foot forward. That's it. My intention is not to give you reasons to stress. My intention is to remove the stress going forward so that you're set up.
No, and I was just going to say, and I think it's also important to keep in mind what type of image you want to project. And, you know, if I come, even though I'm very comfortable in a t-shirt, you may not perceive me as being professional enough that you want to recommend me.
Right. And obviously, if this is your close friend, they already know you. They're not going to be judging you based on how you look because you're meeting them for coffee, you know, about a job. So that's also, I mean, that would also be kind of weird. All right, raise your hand when you've written down what you're going to wear. share their information interview outfit. Come on, it's not that scary. Go ahead.
Well, I have a very limited wardrobe at the moment, so it's not hard. I probably have to get darker jeans if I wear jeans, because it's kind of medium.
Mhm.
But at the moment, I have jeans and jeans.
Mhm.
I have a black blazer I could wear, and I have a number of little cardigans I could wear under it. You wouldn't know it was a sleeveless thing with a jacket. Or I have a black cardigan.
Okay. So the jacket, the black jacket, is it shaped well and in good condition?
Yeah, they're brand new.
Okay, perfect. And then it's a shell underneath?
Mhm.
Okay. And what kind of accessories are you wearing? What are your shoes, your earrings, so forth?
Oh, I didn't go that far. These are about the only shoes that go with my black outfit.
Okay.
So they're kind of loafers, but they're suede, so they're kind of casual. But,
Okay.
And I have scarves. I don't really use jewelry right now.
Okay.
I have it back in my old home.
Okay.
So I have a number of fancy scarves. I can wear scarves.
Okay. And do you have a scarf that would be a conversation starter for you? That's
Yeah.
really beautiful and okay. And do you know how to wear it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
It's
but
true.
I used to work in retail, so.
Okay.
Clothing retail, so.
there you go. Okay. And then how would you wear your hair?
For information interview, I would probably blow dry it so it's has a little form to it,
Mm-hmm.
but probably down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you feel that you would feel confident in that outfit and polished and composed and calm?
As long as you don't have to put me in different shoes, I would be fine.
Well, there you go. That's your answer to that. The only thing with suede is it's tough to keep it not looking worn.
Yeah.
So you just have to think about that. How you're going to keep it buffed and clean, you know. So that would be my only comment.
I'm getting boots, so I have some black boots.
Okay. All right. So good. So, and the other thing that Americans tend to kind of overlook is the iron or the steamer. Make friends with your iron and your steamer because when you are pressed, there's an element of finish and polish there that so even press your jeans. I know it sounds weird, but iron them from the inside out so that they're not crumpled. And whatever the blouse is too. Yeah. And the scarf you can even iron.
Yeah, sometimes it's so
Or dry
difficult in the wintertime because you're wearing a coat
Mhm.
and then you take it off, everything's wrinkled when
Yeah.
you left the house.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to be careful about your fabrication there too.
Yeah.
And, you know, and try these things out and make sure that your coat is not smushing your jacket. We're going to get into that. Yes? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand.
No, I am, but I thought maybe you were asking.
No, go ahead.
The only thing here that I think would be, that I have, that would be appropriate would be the dark jeans.
Yeah.
I do have some dress shirts, but they're like a remnant from like years ago that I keep in hand in case I need an emergency and need to wear something.
Okay.
Would this
Yeah,
apply?
absolutely. Yeah.
And
As
my-
long as it's pressed.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
okay, I guess we need to get an iron. My shoes, I like them, but they're really old also, very
Okay.
comfortable. So should I get a new pair of shoes?
Well, if you can polish them and repair them so that they look good,
Well, they look good to me. I don't know if they look good to you.
Well, clean,
yeah.
but, you know, yeah.
Yeah, they look good. Just make sure they're polished.
Okay.
And, you know, like make sure the heels, you know, are sharp. And I mean, that's the thing. You don't have to buy new clothes. You just have to make sure they're in really good condition and well cared for. Okay, should we go on to the next one?
I have
Yeah.
a question. I have a lot of twin set.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptable? Similar style with this, but matching in a dark green and a black.
It depends. They're a little out of style.
Okay.
So it depends on, like, is it a twin set with that's a crew neck?
No, V-neck. Because I
V-neck.
often wear, like, you know, when I'm working and using it,
Right.
I often use just the V-neck, maybe with a scarf or.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's perfectly composed. The only thing is that it's not not that modern looking. So you just want to kind of think about the message. The modern way to do a twin set is sort of doing, you can do a knit and one of these more loose cardigans.
Yes, I have one of those.
And they're super flattering too. because they don't show the backs. But that's, if you want to make a change, just keeping in mind that, you know, if you're talking to people who are more traditional, you're going to try and line up with that a little bit so you're meeting their expectations. But you just want to make sure that you're looking forward-looking as well.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah. Okay. So first interview outfit, this is where we're suited up. Shirt or blouse, tie from gentlemen. Make sure your tie is tied nicely. Think about what your knot is. There are lots of different ways to tie a tie, right? So some people like their Windsor knots, some people like a more traditional, you know, so think about what that's saying also. You had raised your hand. Raj.
Yeah, I used to be really big into ties.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago. And then somebody convinced me to not wear ties, and since then I just can't wear a tie. It feels like a noose around my neck.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I hate to bring it to you, but you're going to have to get over it for the first interview. I know, it's rough. I mean, there are a lot of guys who spend most of their time wearing a suit with just a press shirt and it looks great. But I think for a first interview, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think, yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe you can get your shirts with a collar that's a little bit bigger so it feels less tight. Or maybe you need to just put a shirt and tie on and wear it around the house to practice so you don't feel like you're like, you know.
I went on YouTube one because I have to review whatever, otherwise I forget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
I tend to buy skirts just a little bit below the knee.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Does it look like grandma?
Yeah.
Because I see a lot on YouTube, it's recommended like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of my skirts are right below the knee.
I think above or below the knee is the way to go. I mean, you know, like I'm wearing above the knee today, but I've got these high boots on. I'm not a big fan of a lot of skin in an interview situation. I don't think it sends the right message. So I think it's better to be a little more conservative. And if that's the way that you feel more comfortable, that's telling them also about you.
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, just one other comment about dressing up and wearing the tie or whatever. Subconsciously, the person who's interviewing you, well, what they're going to see in terms of how you're dressing is how you're respecting, you know, them and the idea of coming in for an interview. It's a subconscious thing, but if you come in for a first interview in a very casual manner, that's lacking some respect that you're showing, you know, from the time that they've set up and the company is set up to take time to talk to you about the opportunity. Yeah. So, you know, it's just one of the reasons why you want to present yourself as professional.
And I also think, to your point earlier, in this town, it's a much more traditional town. Like if you were in, you know, Silicon Valley, the rules might be different. But this town is a very traditional town. And, you know, especially within the federal government, the overall sense is that you look at, it's funny because there was an article about Robert Mueller recently about the way he dresses and about the way he shows up, and that he is suited up, he's got his white shirt on and his dark tie, and he's very by the book. And so the implication there is that he's showing up in the same way that he works. Right. And so that's what you want to show in this first interview. You want to show up to say, I can bring it. Does that make sense? I know, it stinks.
No, and I just also wanted to throw out, unfortunately, the reality is people gonna make a snap judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And if I got 20 interviews, that first impression, if I see you without a tie, and all the rest of them have ties, more than likely they're not, my first inclination will be like, well, I'm gonna put him to the side. Because I need someone more professional to represent our company.
Well, and that's an interesting question too. This question of the first impression is, it's, you know, the way it's been studied is that when people don't change their minds about you very easily. So when they see you, they assign certain adjectives to you in that 5 seconds. It takes you 6 to 8 right impressions to correct a bad first impression. So you want to do everything you can to make sure that that first impression is in line with who you are, how you show up, how you work. Because once you make a good first impression, the subsequent impressions then sort of layer onto that in a good way. So you could make a mistake later on, and it's okay, because they already like you and they know you and they've decided. But if you make a mistake from the get-go, it's very hard to get back in the door. And that is the science of first impressions, and it's, you know, developed over eons to like keep us safe from tigers. I mean, you know, but it really is quite subtle and quite important. Any other questions on the first interview? Yeah.
What about women in a pantsuit?
I'm a big fan.
Okay. It's got a classic, tailored, simple, nice fabric with just a shell underneath.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the pantsuit.
Shoulder pads?
Shoulder pads?
Yeah.
From the 80s? No.
Yeah, I could do
No. All right. So second interview look, again, we do this with a jacket. Depending on your industry, you would either open toe or not open toe. If it's creative and it's the summer, you can do an open toe. But more traditionally, you wouldn't, period. Suit or jacket, trouser with a press shirt for gentlemen, or a blouse for women. Women can wear a dress. I would not do a skirt.
Why is that?
Dresses are just overall more composed, or suits. It gives you a head-to-toe look of, you know, you're polished and you're put together. Skirts is a little harder to pull off.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that? Because if you, like if I wore a skirt in the first interview, right?
But if you're wearing a skirt suit,
A skirt suit.
I'm saying I would not recommend wearing a skirt and a blouse for the second interview.
Oh,
Skirt suit, yes,
that's
absolutely.
different. Oh, okay.
But you want something that's sort of head to toe, because you're walking in, you know, and they're looking at you head to toe. So you want to give a head to toe composed in first impression or second impression. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Definitely use your accessories. So for gentlemen, that's going to be your watch, any kind of ring, your eyeglasses too. I mean, look at Edmund. He's got some fly eyeglasses going on here, really nice, you know, and that's different from a different kind of eyeglasses. It gives it sort of, I'm already thinking you're very scholarly, you know? So there's an adjective that I've already assigned to Edmund based on his glasses. May or may not be true, I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking, you know? So think about all of the ways in which you can use the items that you're putting on your body to send a message that speaks to the best of who you are. So, you know, if you're a top salesman and you want a Rolex, you for sure are going to be wearing that to every single one of these occasions. Because you can also talk about it, right? You can be like, yeah, and I actually won this. Isn't that awesome? You know, because it shows that you are doing well. On the other hand, are you going to be head to toe dripping in diamonds? No. I mean, that would, you know, also be off. So you want to be appropriate to the situation. And we already talked about shoes. Polished, in good condition.
What type of scarf? I've seen long scarves. Like, what type of scarf did you wear for an interview? Because I've never done that.
I would say something that that hits to about here. So when you fold it, so that it's not fussy. Because a longer scarf generally you're wearing with a longer outfit, unless it's with a dress. You could wear a longer scarf, but again, it's just a little bit more casual. So I would wear a square one rather than a long one. But you can look on the internet or on Pinterest and look at different ways to fold your scarf. I mean, you can just go with the classic fold over or square knot to keep it loose and lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about men's accessories.
Yeah.
Now, generally speaking, men's accessories have been, like you said, watch, ring, maybe a bracelet, tie tack, or tie clip. What about earrings?
Oh, that is a good
because,
question.
you know, it is, I mean, men now
Yes.
really are wearing earrings as a statement. I mean, that's who they are.
Yeah.
They're not thinking, I'm going to take it off for the interview. What is your
I would
opinion?
take it off for the first interview.
Yeah, yeah.
I would, unless, again, unless you're in a really creative field,
Yeah, well, of course, yeah.
I think it's just, it's more often than not, it's gonna be a reason for someone to be like, you know? Whereas you're just trying to tick their boxes. Maybe second interview, if it's
Yeah.
really important to you, you show up with whatever your earring is, and then you need to know if they're gonna accept you also,
Right, well, that's it, yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Fit in, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, two comments. One, gentlemen also need to make sure they wear collar stays and collars and that flapping around. And, you know, if you're applying to be the head of the company, the CEO, whatever, you know, consider wearing French cuffs. You want to look more distinguished than like you're a leader.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. And the cufflinks also can be a nice conversation starter. So think about the ways in which you can use your accessories to tell a story about yourself. Maybe it's something from your travels. Maybe it's, you know, maybe it's your school ring. It's also good. You know, whatever kinds of stories you want to tell. Think about how you can start that conversation. Yes?
How about a watch from a previous employer that you got because you worked there so long?
Well, I think that's, you know, I think that's well, I think you have to think about that, right? Because is it an award that you got?
It was strictly because I was there 20th anniversary of my being at that company.
That's a tough one. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know, because you're probably not, I don't know. What?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because a lot of employers, especially in technology, you know, employers are not looking to hire people that have been with one company
Right.
for 20 years because in their head, you haven't kept up with technology.
Yeah.
Making more frequent
Yeah.
job changes to keep up with tech changes
Yeah, that's
in
a tough
technology
one.
is what they're looking for.
So you
it's
can
a-
wear that
yeah.
watch, but maybe you're not going to tell that story.
Yeah, right.
You know, because you're not looking to emphasize that you were there for 20 years. You're looking to emphasize that you're ready to start now, and you're excited, and you're, you know, full of, as my father would say, new vigor and vitality, right? Like, you know,
Right.
so you got to also think about the stories you're telling
Right.
in conjunction with those. But, you know, maybe the tie is from when you went and climbed, you know, Machu Picchu or something. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you want to like do something, show something, wear something that's going to speak to the story you want to tell. So in your, I know you all do this, tell me about yourself.
Right.
Yes.
Think about how you can use your accessories to layer onto that story. Even if it's just to use a color that's indicative of the story you're telling. All right, first impression. And, you know, I realize that we've been talking so much and answering so many questions, I'm not sure that I gave you time to write these down for yourself. Did I do that? You did? You wrote them anyway. Okay. So coat and bag, and of course the shoes polished. You've got it all written down? Okay. I got to check my own boxes. All right. So I want to give you 3 pro tips to take you from good to great. And a lot of the things that we've already talked about speak to those. But number 1, you need to be prepared, right? So now you've got your list of your items. You want to actually put them together when you go home. And put all of these outfits together. Make sure you have all the pieces. Take a picture in the mirror of yourself, head to toe. Take a look at it. Does it speak to the best aspects of yourself? Ask a loved one, does this make me look good? Is this who I am? when you look at this, do you see me? You can ask me this too, of course. And then what I do for my clients is I put them together in what I call a style map. So then you hang it up in your wardrobe or you've got it on your phone and you know exactly what you're wearing, so there's no question. And when you go to that information interview, you might have 3 of these outfits or 4 of these outfits for the information interview, because obviously you want to be getting out a lot, right? Talking to a lot of people, going to a lot of presentations like this, making these first impressions, handing out your card. And you want to make sure that every time you get home, you're getting those laundered and pressed so they're ready to go for the next time. So, you know, you land that first interview, you take your suit to the dry cleaner right away so that you're ready to go, you know, 2 days later, right? So make sure you put all of these together and have them ready to go, clean and checked head to toe. Once you've assembled your looks and you're taking care of your looks, we need to talk about accessories. We've talked about this a little bit, right? So you've got your style map of what you have. Now you need to think about what it is that you're telling, this story that you're telling. So we're going to dial it up using the accessories. So I use this thing called the accessories index, which basically gives you kind of an idea of whether you're polished head to toe. And you want to hit this range of like 8 to 12 points in your outfit. So you give a point for each piece, a point for each color, a point for texture or pattern, a point for the accessory. Black shoes and your normal glasses actually don't count. And so you want to get between this 8 to 12 range, and that's sort of considered to be fully accessorized or polished. So for example, I've got a jacket and skirt and boots and pantyhose. I've got a belt and a blouse. Okay, so I'm already at 7. Then my belt has some polish to it, that's a point. I have a necklace, that's another piece really. I have 2 colors, so now I'm at 12. I didn't count my earrings, that's 13. So I'm a little bit over because I've got texture in my boot as well. But I can be a little bit over because I'm creative and I'm, you know, it's okay. But this is, like, when you think about it, this is fairly subdued. So, but there are some elements to my outfit that make it interesting and it's complete. A lot of people will stop at 5 or 6, think they're dressed. You're not fully dressed. You need these accessories, you need some color, you need some pattern to make it a little bit more interesting. Yes?
Are you implying that we need to own like 5 or 6 pairs of glasses?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I'm just saying your glasses don't count as a point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think for what you do, your glasses are fine. Totally on point. You know, they're metal, they're rounded, they show your eyes. It's great.
And I'm progressive, which I'm still getting used to.
That's right. Because you're progressive.
Yeah.
All right. So the other thing I need to talk to you about, and I know this is tough when you're in career transition, but it's really important for you to be taking good care of yourself. You need to keep up with your skin, make sure it's clean, moisturized, well taken care of. You need to keep your hair cut nice. Make appointments and go regularly. Make sure that you're taking care of your health. If you can't afford to be at a gym right now, that's fine. You can get outside, take walks, go running, do your exercise at home, whatever you need to do to stay feeling good. Eat healthy, drink lots of water, get enough sleep. All of this stuff really, it shows up. So people will see that you're healthy because they want you ready to work, right? And also when you're taking good care of yourself, you feel better. And especially when you're in a vulnerable place, you need to feel as good as you possibly can. So, give yourself that, it's called beauty sleep for a reason, right? Because you look better and you feel better. And this will show up, again, subconscious, but people will see it. So take a look at your lists. Think about what you're missing in your 4 outfits. Just circle, what's missing, or write it in and put a circle around it, or whatever you need to do to indicate to yourself that that's a hole you need to fill. And then that's your needs list. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to spend a lot of money to look good. You don't have to, go out and buy a whole new wardrobe. In fact, I would recommend against that, unless you really haven't gone shopping in several years. Because what you're going to want to do is get that job and then buy a whole new wardrobe once you've been in the job for a couple months. So yes, you might need to buy these 4 outfits, but it shouldn't be too big a debt in the old budget. Okay, everyone done with their needs list? Yes. All right. Okay, so think about these needs that you have, and remember, it's the holiday season. Everyone around you who loves you and wants you to succeed wants to figure out a way to help you. And of course, the last thing that you want is for them to be calling every day and saying, have you found that job yet? So you can tell them, if you really want to help me, get me a gift card. Because what I really need is that pair of dark jeans or a new pair of shoes so that I'm ready to get out there and do my job hunt. And so, of course, you can work with me too. I'm very good at this, and it's a lot of fun, much more fun than going shopping by yourself. But you can ask that stylish friend, can you get me this specific piece? Or if your mother loves to shop, tell her, I really need this great pair of jeans, and let her do that for you. Because people really do want to help you. And they want to lift you up and help you succeed. So the bonus that I promised you is that I am here to help you. So what I want to offer you is what I call a style challenges session, which is basically a half an hour to talk about what's blocking you from great style. So you can acknowledge whether it's time or comfort or anything that is the excuse that's getting in your way to why you haven't been shopping or why you're not taking care of yourself. I've talked to a lot of people about these things. I understand. I can help you validate what's going on, and then we can figure out what you need to do to move forward. So you can book this now. It's free. I'm offering it to you as my gift. Happy holidays. And I've got lots of sessions open before the 20th. So take advantage of it. And spend some time with me. I'm going to help you get to that point where you can start taking those steps forward. So I'll let you just write this down or take a picture of it. And if for some reason you can't find a time that matches the time you need, just send me an email. My email is on those cards that I gave you. Everyone got it? Okay. All right. Oh, right on time. Okay. No more time for questions. Sorry. Bye. Just kidding. No. If you have any other questions, you know where to reach me. And of course, you can ask me right now. Are we good?
Yeah, well, can I ask? Yeah, people could ask after we close out.
Of course. Of course. But Kate, you had one more question?
Well, mine applies just to me, so I don't know if I.
Okay. That's also fine.
Well, I have black pants and a black jacket, and the colors go okay, but I don't have a suit. But I have one pair of pants that are slim, but they're stretchy, and so they kind of stretch out. Mm-hmm. But I have the other pants that I've worn. They're a little more palazzo, mm-hmm. and they have a white pinstripe. Mm-hmm. Is that maybe a second interview kind of thing, or no?
I wouldn't. I think that's too casual.
Okay. They look kind of formal, but they're wider legs.
Yeah.
But they look
the
better
stripe?
on me. Well, a tiny pinstripe, but they're wide, like a pinstripe suit. But they look better on me than your typical suit.
Okay. All right. I can see that maybe for a second interview. It depends on how you feel in them too.
I have a picture of it.
Yeah. But I would do a suit for the first interview. I know, because people can tell when it's not the same fabric. It's just like that, one of those subconscious things, and you just want to tick all of those boxes. I know, it's a bummer. Yeah. But you're a professional, you know how to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.